Final Destination Bloodlines might be the franchise's best entry since the original, but that's not just nostalgia talking. Final Destination Bloodlines resurrects the iconic horror franchise with a fresh spin and a surprising amount of emotional weight. The film pivots from the usual group of strangers setup and instead centers around a fractured family trying to reconnect, only to be ripped apart by death's design. Plagued by violent and recurring nightmares, a college student heads home to track down the one person who might be able to break the cycle of death and save her family from a grisly demise that inevitably awaits them. Now, I'm an old head. I remember going to see the first Final Destination opening weekend in the theater and just leaving shook. And I think I watched it about 10 more times after that. I was just fascinated with it. There wasn't really a movie like it that came out at that time. This is like the 2000s where we're just getting a bunch of crappy Scream clones. And the ones after that, it didn't really impress me that much. I liked it for the kills, the randomness to it, the setups. They were all good, but like story-wise, they weren't really that great. They're just dumb fun, really. And some of the sequels are better than others. As for Bloodlines, I was looking forward to it. Just seeing the new take on the story with it being like a bloodline to the family, I was interested in seeing how that would work out. And it just seemed like breathing fresh new air into it. Now start with the opening kill, the opening disaster that a lot of these movies start with. And it was really cool. It was like a restaurant, kind of like a Sky Needle. And you'll see it in the trailer, of course, but the way everything, the Rube Goldberg of it all, it really actually worked well, especially as someone who's afraid of heights myself. And it has some really brutal kills. Like, you have a little asshole kid, you have an asshole old man, he just gets destroyed by an elevator, and yeah, it was just, that's the good thing about this movie is, yeah, there were a bunch of random people at the beginning, and they usually have to come together and kind of outwork death's design or whatever, but that's not what this is. This is someone in the present day having a vision of what happened or what could have happened to her grandmother. And that's one of the great things about this. It's like a family who already know each other, who already have like characteristics and dynamics with each other, who are working to escape death's design, rather than just a bunch of randos like in the other movies. And it works, especially with most of the characters being pretty likable and funny. They have the tattoo parlor guy that you probably see in the first trailer. He's the standout, really, for me. He's got siblings. One's kind of like the kind-hearted brother. The girl, I don't know if they were trying to do the Hoktua girl, but during the cookout, it looked just like her. And you got the main character, her brother, and her estranged mom. And they were good. And then the brother was actually, he played Devon Sawa's son in the Chucky series, so that's a neat little connection to the first movie. But this is directed by Zach Lipovsky and Adam B. Stein, starring Caitlin Santajuana, who is the main character. She has the vision of her grandmother dying and tries to convince everyone that this is part of death's design. They have to outmaneuver it. And it's interesting that this was written by Laurie Evans Taylor and Guy Busick, who also wrote the Scream 2022 film, which is resurrecting a not dead franchise, but a stalled franchise. The movie definitely leans into the comedy aspect of this. You pretty much have to. It's absolutely ridiculous. And I think from what I remember, the first Final Destination actually took itself pretty seriously. And I think it's really elevated by the strong connection of the family. And also, there's a lot of twists and turns to what's happening, so it's not going to just follow the, okay, this person's next, and then they have a whole death sequence. It actually twisted a little bit here and there, so I found that pretty rejuvenating for what I was expecting. Like, I don't go into a Final Destination with a high bar. And seeing this in Dolby was just, like, fantastic. It's like a amusement park ride, really, watching it with a bunch of other people, hearing them react, jolting into your seat when something unexpected happens. So if you're going to go watch it, I would recommend watching it the opening weekend or opening week in Dolby, if you have a Dolby or IMAX or whatever. And one of my biggest positives was Tony Todd's Sendoff in here. So I've been a big fan of Tony Todd ever since I've been watching horror movies since I was a kid, starting with the Night of the Living Dead remake by Tom Savini, and of course Candyman. Candyman's probably one of my all-time favorite horror films. And The way they do a send-off with him, which I won't spoil until the spoiler section, is just very heartfelt, and it's so sad because he was suffering from stomach cancer and eventually died last year in 2024. And just the way it's in a wrestling term, he was breaking kayfabe in a way, which he was talking about his character having cancer, and he's probably going to be next after this family dies. And his whole connection to the lore, because he shows up in all these other Final Destination movies, was neat. Like how they did a little throwback to his character, to the actor. I just thought it was brilliant, especially in the ending credits. I encourage you to stay through the first part of the credits because it's like another memorial to him in a way. There's some things kind of holds me back. The third act lacked a little of the momentum and felt a little patched together. It felt like they did a reshoot for it. It wasn't bad. It just lacked the cohesiveness of the rest of the movie. And there's some character arcs that felt a little undercooked, especially with the estranged mother arc. There could have been a little bit more to that, I think. It just felt a little flat to me. And you've got the Final Destination tropes that's happened in the movies, which, and I'll get into in the spoiler section, but it's like they can't escape these tropes in this franchise. But speaking of the spoiler section, I wanted to talk about spoilers briefly. I'll have a timestamp below so you can skip past this if you haven't watched it. But if you have watched it and would like to know what I thought about some of the other spoiler aspects, it'll be in this section, but just skip to my score at the timestamp below. All right, so the first one was the first trailer with the tattoo parlor guy getting killed during that death sequence where he's caught on fire, which faked us out because he didn't die during that sequence. And it comes with a fun twist where he's not actually the biological son of the father. It's the bloodline. The bloodline is what's cursed. But he dies later in the movie in a very brutal way. And it was like one of the best kills of the movie, but why was he killed? Was he killed because he's interfering with Death's design? I don't know. I would love to hear some theories about that. The mother subplot, it's like she was trying to sacrifice herself to save her children. Yeah, I get that, but it's just whap, she dies. A pole falls on her. Like, it was just like, really? That's where you're going? I think she died at the hospital in the original cut. I have a feeling she did. It feels like a little bit of a reshoot, like they extended her part into the third act to give her that earned sacrifice for her children, which she left years ago. But I felt like they could have done more with that. And they have this part where halfway through the movie, it's like they talk to the Tony Todd character, and he said you can kill yourself and then be brought back to life, and that might keep death from coming after you. But haven't they done this in the past movies? Like, it just seems like the biggest trope. Like, we just seen it Smile 2, and that's one thing that just held it back for me too. And it doesn't work, and it doesn't ever work. So why are we still doing this? And we find out at the end that she didn't really die, her heart didn't stop, and they fucking die anyway. So that's part of my Final Destination tropes. We've seen this before, and then they die anyway. You're fucked no matter what. So I think it's just the point of the Final Destination movies. It's just the cool kills and outrageous ways people die and stuff, of course. But this movie really did elevate that. But in the final death was pretty amazing with the logs and everything. So it's not like I'm complaining about it. It's just, are we going to get past this? You're going to fucking die anyway. And then they had that little eerie thing where they're looking around, seeing what's going on. But yeah, I think if they're going to do another one, probably try to get past some of these tropes. But my final score, Final Destination Bloodlines, is a 4 out of 5. I had a total blast in the theater. If it's still shown in the theater, it might show again later. Yeah, definitely go check it out in the theater, in Dolby, in IMAX, wherever you can see it, with a big crowd. It's tense, it's funny, and it's surprisingly emotional. And it's my favorite since the original. So if you're a fan of these whatsoever, this is a must watch for you. And especially one of the best parts is like the send off to Tony Todd, who, rest in peace, but it was just handled so well for such a schlocky movie.
Good luck.
Did you see Final Destination Bloodlines? Let me know down below what you thought. What's your favorite Final Destination kill too? What is that? Mine might be the log truck, the tanning bed maybe, LASIK, I don't know. Maybe hit the like button. It really helps with small channels like this. It really helps us get noticed by the algorithm gods. And if you like movie reviews like this, maybe subscribe and check us out. And I'll see you later. Bye.